My name is Ryan Tomer, and I am speaking today about Adam Grolsch, who in 2 days witnessed the death of 25,000 men, women, and children. So for a little bit of background, he was born in Krefeld, 1920, to a Catholic family. He later on in his life became a radio operator on the Eastern Fronts for the Wehrmacht, and as I said before, he personally witnessed that massacre of Jews at Pinsk, Belarus in October of 1942. But personal history, his father died in 1933, and he was 13 years old when Hitler came to power. His father was unemployed, and he fully expected that the Nazis would give him a job and get the working class people out of poverty and get them employed. His mother worshipped Hitler as a god. If you ever do any research on Hitler worship, it's pretty crazy stuff. She was quoted as saying, "For my mother, Hitler was the Lord God. Everything he said was right, and the Führer could do anything." He wasn't the biggest fan of Hitler due to youth policies. He was a member of the Killerbock Pirates, a group similar to the Edelweiss Pirates we studied earlier, Neuroder, a group that I really couldn't find much information about, and the Pathfinders, which were the German-affiliated Boy Scouts in the country. He joined the Hitler Youth by force once all of his other groups had been dismantled. And he never would have joined the party, but not because I was a hero, he said. I didn't want to join the party because they had outlawed the literature that I loved, and they had made it illegal to travel abroad. So he really didn't like the Nazis for more of selfish reasons than anything else. He was a radio engineer on the front, so he was allowed to listen in to radio stations like the BBC. He was quoted as saying, I switch around here and there, and it wasn't all that simple. We had to search the waves anyways. As a radio operator, you had to switch back and forth through certain wave frequencies to see if there were any emergency notices from soldiers on the front. So you're flipping through the stations, you find the BBC. Whoops. I just listen to it anyways. They got some nice, dirty jokes I can share with my buddies and whatnot. But this was also where he first learned about the gassings of Jews. And when he was asked in the interview about what he thought about that, he was quoted as saying that he was neutral because the German radio would talk about the glory of the German army and the glory of the German retreat, while the BBC would talk about gassing. So there was really a toss-up in his mind over who was to be believed. The massacre that he witnessed occurred at the Pinsk ghetto in 1942. This experience came from curiosity. He heard a racket in the ghetto. These dark black lines you see on this picture here are the boundaries of the Pinsk ghetto. And he was living in an apartment located next to the ghetto, somewhere around here. He had heard noises in the ghetto, and like I said, he went to investigate. Pinsk is located right here in the southern border of Belarus, right near the border of the Ukraine. So well within Nazi-occupied territory. How did this happen? Well, the Jews were escorted to pre-dug ditches 3 kilometers outside of town and were shot in similar manner to the Police Battalion 101 that we read about, except this time it wasn't as merciful as some of the killings like at Joseph that we read about. These pictures you see here are actually from a massacre in Pinsk that was carried out by the Einsatzgruppen in August of '42, before the ghetto was ordered to be liquidated. He recalls the killing of men, women, children, and infants. He was quoted as saying, "The most absolute worst thing I saw was how this man took a screaming baby and beat it headfirst against the wall until it was dead." The Jews were marched into the forest, the ditches dug in the earth, and they were mowed down mercilessly with rifles and submachine guns. The Jews were led up this mound of dirt, and there were these guys standing with submachine guns at the top. And then they were shot down, and they simply fell right in. They'd walk up the ramp, the guys would mow them down, hand their guns off to a guy next to them, get another fully loaded machine gun, and take out more Jews. It was, for lack of better terms, a assembly line of death. The killers were actually civilian volunteers. They're Cossacks, Lithuanians, Latvians, and they were overseen by a German officer. And this civilian treatment of Jews was not an uncommon thing. When his spearhead army division went into the front, he went into a Lithuanian town and said, "We looked around and saw bodies all over the place, hanging from the trees. People have been hanged." The one guy came up to us who spoke good German and said, "We've already taken care of things here. All of the Jews from this town have already been strung up. Hitler's against the Jews anyways. We'll kill them all, and then we'll take all their stuff." He was actually almost a corpse. As we read about in some of our readings, many of the killers in this instance were drunk at the time that they were performing their duties. So Grolsch and his buddy could have very well been put into the group of Jews and killed as well, but the Wehrmacht officer in charge of the operation found them and took them into custody. They were sworn to secrecy about this top secret operation, and if it wasn't for that officer, like I said, they could have been killed as well. After the killing was done, he said, afterward I went into the buildings where the Jews were kept, and it was horrifying. There were still people who were standing down there in the toilets, in the sewer trenches where the feces were. They were hiding away, and they'd only stuck out their heads and peered out, and they thought they had gotten away. Well, in fact, they were reported by the civilians who looted the ghetto after it was declared Judenfrei. So Grolsch didn't keep quiet about his experience. He talked to some of his soldier friends about it, and they honestly thought he was full of crap. They didn't believe that what he had seen was something that could actually happen. He wrote a letter to his wife about the whole incident and said, if there is any God at all, then Germany should never be allowed to win this war. As we know, that's not how that turned out. But someone in Grolsch's situation brings up a very interesting question for us to think about. By his own testimony, Grolsch never laid a single hand on a Jew. There is no Jewish blood on his hands. But then again, he witnessed something like this so terrifying and horrible, but did nothing to stop that. So what does that make him? I'll leave that up to you to decide.